Hello and welcome to the Trail and Adventure Motorbike Podcast with me, Clive Barber, and my good mate, Noel Tom. For the days when you can't ride your bike, there's always the Trail and Adventure Motorbike Podcast. We're back again. Season 3, episode 23, possibly. Great episode this week. We're really honoured to welcome Bruce Teapotone Smart to the podcast. It might get a little bit self-indulgent when we're talking about podcasting, but please bear with us. We wanted to quiz Bruce about how he does it and what he does and all that kind of stuff. So there's a bit of that nonsense in there. Bruce is probably more famous for his awesome YouTube channel, Teapotone on YouTube. He's a round-the-world sports bike rider. He's got a lot of great things to say, not only on YouTube, but also on Teapotone Bru Time, which is his podcast available on all the best podcasting channels. Obviously, you listen to it after you've listened to ours, but just make sure you listen to it. Come on, let's get on with it.
I appreciate you inviting me on because I don't know if you find, it's like, I like to get anyone with a story. I don't care if they're bike related or not for my podcast. It's all about my live your life thing. So, you know, I love getting people on, but I don't often get asked on other people's podcasts. So I don't know if I put them off or what it is.
What part of Scotland are you in, Bruce? I'm just presuming you're in Scotland. Isn't that funny?
I was born up in the northeast, like north of Aberdeen, up near Peterhead, Fraserburgh. And then I left there when I was about 17 and moved to Glasgow. I went to uni at Strathclyde Uni in Glasgow. So I lived there till... when was that? I was about 24. Yeah, I left Glasgow about 24 years of age and then moved down to London to join the old Bill. That was in 2000. And I've been down here ever since. I'm in Kent now.
How did you know Bruce was Scottish though, Noel? Hey, we've started the podcast.
And we're back.
There is sort of an assumption though, when I hear your Scottish accent, I just presume that you wouldn't be daft enough to move out of Scotland.
I do think that when I go back. I took some people back on a tour there this year with, you know, Simon Weir that does all the bike routes and stuff. Well, we started doing some tours together. So we took a group up there. And the whole week, I'm up there going, what the hell am I doing down in England? You know, why am I down there when I've got this up here?
The roads are empty and glorious.
It was amazing.
We hosted a lad from India last weekend. And he'd basically flown into Heathrow, borrowed a bike from a friend, and just rode on pretty much all the way on the motorway up to Scotland and toured Scotland and the islands. And
brilliant.
He's slowly releasing a few videos now, but his it's really interesting, his reaction to, he'd never ridden in Britain before, and he's kind of like showing people the service stations and explaining how you get petrol and you can get food, and it's like stuff we absolutely take for granted, and he just thought it was all so magical.
He was really struck by the rules, wasn't he? And yet even he, in his short time here, realised there was far less rules, just like parking and things, parking in the street, you know, far less rules in Scotland than there are in England.
Yeah, I'd love to ride in India. I'm trying to make things happen for next year. I'd love to ride over there. It'd be amazing.
So that wasn't on your world tour then, India?
It was originally, but just budget, basically, you know, finances dictated. There was quite a bit of the original trip that I just simply couldn't afford. I just couldn't fit it in, and time as well. You know, time was starting to run away from me, and I had to be back in the UK for a set date. So you know, I had about a year and a half to do it. There's still plenty for me to go back and finish for sure.
But if you haven't guessed already, we're delighted and honoured to be joined by Bruce Smart, alternatively known as... I've ruined my joke now. I can't ask you if Teapotone's your real name because I've just said you're called Bruce Smart. So maybe you could tell us where did Teapotone come from?
Teapotone, right. Hello, everybody. Teapotone comes from, and this is where I'll lose most people, I used to be a copper. I used to be a police officer in the Met in London, and Teapotone is the call sign for like the Navy wagon, you know, like it's a mobile T-wagon. Oh. So I was trying to think of a name for my trip. I was going to take a career break from the police and go off and do this trip. And I was trying to think of a name for it. And one of my mates said to me, he said, well, look, you're looking at taking a break. Teapotone basically means that if there's a large scale deployment of coppers somewhere, if you're going to be there for any protracted length of time, they put over the radio that Teapot 1's being deployed. So you're going to be there for a while, but it also means you'll get 10 minutes off the front line. Like if you're in riot kit, you'll get 10 minutes to take your lid off and some of your protection off, and you can go and have a cup of tea, cup of coffee, biscuit, fag if you smoke. You just got 10 minutes to sort of clear your head before you get back on the line. So they said to me, why don't you call it Teapot 1? Because straight away you'll have 30-odd thousand Met coppers who'll have an affiliation with you, and you're taking a break from the old bill. And I thought, okay. So it sort of makes sense. Why not? And in my head, I'm thinking it's got bugger all to do with travel. It's got bugger all to do with bikes, but all right, let's go for it. And here we are 10 years later, it's stuck.
Well, it works quite well, I think.
It's something different, isn't it, I suppose, yeah.
Better than TAMP, which is what we are. I'm not quite sure how that happened. We didn't really think that through.
We really didn't.
No, we were chatting to the guy that designed the logo for us, and he went, well, if I'd known it was going to be like a big thing, I'd have spent a bit more time and effort doing it for you.
Yeah. You can never tell, though, can you? When you start these things, you've got no idea what direction they're going to go in and what longevity they're going to be, how big things are going to go.
Exactly, or how small they're going to stay in our case.
Oh. How long have you guys been doing it?
Well, we've been doing it on and off for 4 years, but kind of quite more seriously, almost on a weekly basis, probably for just over the last year or so. And we started 4 years ago, gave it a go. During COVID, I work in IT, so I was spending 6 hours a day on conference calls. And then my wife would go, we're doing an online quiz tonight and it's just like the last thing I wanted to do was getting another fucking conference call. Bizarrely, when, you had kind of lots more time than normal, we kind of stopped doing it then just because I couldn't face doing it really. We had a bit of a following and people were writing in and saying, get it going again. It was good. So we did.
But when we started, I had no idea we'd ever do it like this. I was quite resistant to it when it was first sort of muted that we could do it online. Through the whole of lockdown, I never had a single Zoom conversation with anyone because it's just not part of my life. But I think in the beginning we felt they all had to be done face to face. And that really restricted us, I think, at first, didn't it? And now it would seem really odd, as it did at the weekend when we did one in person. It seems really odd to be in the same room with someone now.
I've got to admit, I much prefer doing them face-to-face because that was my intention, was to travel on my bike around the UK and meet with people and sort of create content on the way and when I'm there, outside of the podcast for my video channel. But obviously COVID hit and we couldn't do it. And it was like, well, we'll just do it Zoom. And then Zoom opens up the entire planet to you, doesn't it? You've got no geographic restriction on your guests anymore. So as long as the internet's good, then you can chat away with people.
It has been very good for that because everybody now has, or most people have access to a laptop and have a headset. And we all say to people, even, the crappy free one that came with your phone is better than your laptop. But everybody, most people can set it up and make it work, which is great.
The one that's just come out for me, for Bru Time, I just had a chat with a chap called Thor, a Danish chap. He's on a trip at the moment called Once Upon a Saga. He has been on the road for 9 years, and his quest is to visit every single country in the world without flying. So no flying at all. And when he does it, he's in country 200 at the moment. He just arrived in Vanuatu, I think, in the South Pacific Islands, which was country number 200. And he was sat in his little sort of hotel that he's got on the island in the toilet, because the toilet was the only place that you could have a decent light above him. And then he was sort of using his phone, which was stuck out the window, as a sort of Wi-Fi transmitter hooked up to his laptop. It was brilliant.
Doesn't sound like the usual sort of quest a Thor would be on, does it?
Yeah, I know. Crazy though, like chatting to him. 9 years this guy's been on the road. 9 years. He got stuck in Hong Kong for 2 years because of COVID. He got married. Like he was with his girlfriend at the time, like when he set off. And because he got stuck for 2 years, obviously it changes life, doesn't it? Reprioritizes a lot of things. So they got married online via an online minister in Colorado. Way. So his missus is in Denmark, he's in Hong Kong, and they got married on the internet by somebody in Colorado.
Wow. I didn't even think that was legal, that was possible to get married online.
Idea. Yeah.
You can get married online. Oh, this offers up a whole new world of opportunity.
So, Brew Time, Teapotone Bru Time, that's your podcast.
Yep.
Available on all good podcast providers. And then you've got your YouTube channel, which is...
Just Teapot1.
Teapot1. 72.4 thousand subscribers on YouTube.
It's nuts, isn't it? It's crazy.
That's a big number, isn't it?
On YouTube, I think you get to a stage where your subscribers start moving into the thousands and tens of thousands, and then like you're on this quest to hit 100,000, and then you don't consider yourself big because you see people that have got 500, 600,000, a million, tens of millions, all this sort of stuff. But when you stop to think of 70,000 people, that's like a big full-on stadium full of people, and you just think that's insane. That's crazy.
Presumably, it's taken. You said you've been doing it for 10 years now. I guess it's taken a while to get there. I guess.
Yeah. I think I had about 600 subscribers till about the end of 2016, because I got most of them on the world trip, and then that finished halfway through 2014, and I did nothing after that because in my head, Teapot1 was the world trip. It was the round the world trip. So it's done now. And then I really missed the engagement with people, in comments and in social media and, everything like that. And I kind of went through a bit of a tough time when I came back. I had a real post-trip blues. I won't say depression, because every blooming man and his dog says they've got depression these days. I was down. I was just feeling gloomy, and wasn't really sure what next in life. You've lived your dream. Now what? So it was like, is that it then?
Well, I was going to say, did it really hit you? Did you see it coming as you were coming back, or did it really hit you out of the blue?
It hit me once I was back. I remember being back, and then very quickly I went back into my old job, and it hit me then when I was surrounded by all the same people that I was surrounded by before, and everyone's moaning about exactly the same things. And like friends and family, everyone is moaning about the same old shit. And I felt really frustrated. I felt like grabbing people and shaking them and just going, if you don't fucking like it, do something about it. Get off your arse and change whatever you don't like. But I could feel myself falling back into old ways. Oh, this is just easy just to do that, and just go back and do what I used to do. Yeah. And that started really annoying me. And I was kind of thinking, well, what was the point of me credit card myself up to the hilt? I remortgaged, I borrowed money off of friends and family. I was like, that trip cost me about 55 grand. So I managed to get a sponsor for about 25 grand of that eventually. But, it still stumped me up a good 30 odd grand that I had to fund. And I didn't have that before I went. So it was like, that was through like multiple credit cards, loans, remortgaging, all this sort of stuff. You find yourself with all this debt, which fine, I had an amazing experience from, but you've got to pay all that off. And then I was just like, what was the point? What was the point of that then? If I'm just back to where I was, if anything, lots of steps behind because I've got even less money. And I sort of lost track of what I got from that trip. And it took me a while to sort of realize, hang on, you don't need to go back to your old ways, your old way of thinking. Yeah. Let's do something with it. So end of 2016, I just started making videos again. I'd had loads of people ask me, what's happening now? What are you doing now? In comments and messages and stuff. So I thought I'll just do a vid, just going, right, there's a bit of an update. I've not been in touch for a while. I did that and it went down really well. So I just started doing videos every week. And I think that was October 2016. And the first sort of 6 months it flew. The channel went from, I think, 600 subs to about 12,000. Something like that.
And you were trying to put something out weekly, pretty much aiming for that.
I've always tried to do weekly if I can. Obviously, with a full-time job, that can be hard to do. Even now, it can be hard to do. It all depends on your editing, how long the vids are, how in depth your editing's going to be, all this sort of stuff. And I'm very pig-headed, and I think I'm the sort of person that if there's an easy way to get to C, if you just go A to C, draw a line and do that, I won't do that. I'll go via Z and L, I'm just that type. I don't know. I don't know why, but I like to make
what are you saying that your preference is to do it the hard way? I think you're going to go the other way.
I like to be different. So
that explains your bike choice for around the world, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's stupid stuff like that. I don't know why, but I don't I don't want to be a sheep. I want to do my thing the way I want to do it. And I like being different. There's not many people have done it on sports bikes. Nobody's ever done it on the Jigsaw. So I was like, right, okay, that's got my name on it. I'll do that then. So
we'll come on to your round the world trip. Tell us a little bit about your biking history. You obviously got your qualifications in the cops, but were you riding bikes before then for pleasure?
I was a late bloomer. I passed my test in 2008, and I passed my test to do the world trip. It's a bit of a backstory, and I'll try and be as quick as I can with it. I'd always wanted to ride a bike, but I'd never done it. My mum was always very anti-bikes. My dad was too, for some reason. Probably just because my mum was anti-bikes. I since found out my dad used to ride a motorbike, but he kept that very quiet when I was growing up. So all through my sort of youth and adolescence, a bike just didn't feature on my horizon. It's something I thought was really cool, but now, certainly when I'm at home, I'm never going to have a bike. I remember as I came down to London and joined the Old Bill, loads of coppers had bikes, and I remember thinking, that is so cool. I remember seeing the S-Rad Jigsaw, the blue and white Jigsaw, and just thinking, oh man, that's gorgeous. I love that bike. That was a stereotypical motorbike for me, the poster bike. But again, I never did anything about it. Sadly, my mom fought cancer for about 10 years, and during her last year, she was living with me. My mom and dad, I'll go back a little bit. My mum got the all clear. She got the 5-year all clear from cancer. So they decided, right, we've had enough of this. We'll retire out to my mum would retire. My dad kept working. But we'll move to Spain to the sun and enjoy the good life. So they did that. But sadly, within a couple of years, mum's cancer had come back. So she kept having to come back to the UK every few years and have more treatment for cancer. The last time that she had to do that, she wasn't responding very well to treatment. And I'd said to mum, why don't you come and move in with me rather than staying at like her sister's place or in a bed sit somewhere? Stay with me. I've got a 2-bedroom flat now. So she moved in with me, and she was getting more and more unwell. And then one day I was off work and we were just sat on the couch having a chat, watching TV, and Long Way Round came on, like Dave or, one of the council telly channels. It came on, and I'd seen all that before. But it came on, and I started to have a moan to my mum and say, it's all right for McGregor with all that money, blah, 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 blah. And she just said, look, you've always spoke about riding a bike and you've never done it. You've always spoke about travel and you've never done that. Don't get to my stage where you face the end and you regret what you've not done in life. Mm. And she said, look after those that you love, but live your life.
Good advice.
Excuse me. And it really, it struck a chord. It was like that epiphanal moment for me. It was literally like, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So I picked up my laptop there and then, and I Googled, how do you do a motorbike license? DAS came up. I booked myself on a DAS, did that. I even bought a brand new GSX-R 600 from P&H in Crawley. So that was sat there waiting for me to pass my test. I failed on the first attempt. I put my foot down in the U-turn. But anyway, so by the time it came for me to I passed the test, I picked up the Jigsaw, got into my Power Ranger outfit, rode that to the hospice, St Christopher's Hospice in Penge. Mum didn't want to die in my flat, bless her, so she elected to go in a local hospice. And I wandered into the ward and I shook the keys and I said, look, I've done it, I've passed my test. So she gave me a big hug and she said, promise me you'll do that trip. And she lost her battle. She died 5 days later. So I was like, right, okay, I've got this trip to do. I kind of still thought, it's not something I can do yet because I've got a job. I had a son that lived up in Glasgow. I had commitments. I couldn't do this. So it was again something I was thinking I would do when I retired, that sort of stuff. I had an incident at work when I was chasing one of London's finest through Catford, and he turned and pointed a gun right in my face. And he pulled the trigger, and it went click. And that sort of that brings you down a little bit. That you start seeing things in a different light with that. So a few nights later, I'm having a curry with the boys, and I told them about this dream I had of riding a bike and what I'd promised my mum and stuff. And they just went, Jesus Christ, that, if ever you needed a sign, that is it. That's your mum telling you to get off your arse and get on with this. So after a few beers, I kind of thought, well, actually, maybe I could do this. Maybe we can make this happen. And that was it. So I decided I would leave on Mum's birthday, 1st of October. And I thought, I'll never be able to get any leave till after the Olympics, because obviously we had the Olympics coming to London 2012. So I decided 1st of October 2012, I'll leave. And that's what I did.
Wow. Can I just say, that guy, I'm presuming it wasn't a woman. Women can fire guns too.
Oh, yeah,
But
it was a, yeah.
What did he get charged with? Did you catch him the moment after that happened?
Yeah, we got him. Yeah. We chased him, detained him. Yeah, he was wanted for murder anyway. He killed someone up at Elephant and Castle at the old salsa club up in Elephant and Castle.
But does pointing that gun at you and you hearing that click, does that mean he gets charged with attempted murder?
I think he did. I never got asked to go and give evidence, believe it or not. So, wow. But it wasn't just me. There was like a group of us by that point. There was like 5 or 6 of us chasing him, and I'll never forget, because I was chasing this guy on foot and I was starting to catch him, and I don't catch people in a foot chase, and I just remember him like tugging away at something, and then he just it was like you ever seen the Penguin in Batman, the movie, when Danny DeVito, when he pulls that massive gun out his waistband, and it goes on for about 8 feet. It's got a massive, great big barrel. It was just like that. It was just the biggest shooter I've ever seen. And he pointed at me and clicked and moved around the sort of group of people like that, and sort of backed away, and then we got him. We chased him.
But I presume even today, that's a pretty unusual thing to happen to a serving officer.
There's a lot of gun crime in London, and not just London. You know, most cities. There's a lot more going on than I think a lot of people realise, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's not downtown Mogadishu out there. You know, we're not having running gun battles 24/7. But you know, certain parts of London can get quite tasty at times. Yeah, for sure.
I've lived in most of them, I think.
I bet you've got a Mogadishu story.
I have no Mogadishu stories.
No way. Wow, we've Google whacked you.
Yeah, you've beaten me. You finally got something. Noel always takes the piss at me because whatever stories anybody tells, a mate of mine.
Yeah.
Like, right, yeah.
Well, I haven't got one from Mogadishu. I've seen Black Hawk Down. That was in Mogadishu, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Did you retire from the police force in the end?
Well, I was going to ask that because I know what he did, so I'm going to ask a better question than that.
Okay.
Go on.
So you went away and you did your trip, 1.5-year trip. You'd obviously got a leave of absence from the cops at that point. So you came back and you went back into the job. Mm-hmm. And obviously then you started doing more of your YouTube stuff. And then something happened, didn't it, with the police that made you have to leave effectively you were given a choice. It was one or the other, right?
Yeah, I'd sort of come back and been building the whole brand of Teapot One for, the decade, basically. And I was backed by the commissioner, both commissioners, you know, the one that was around when I went on my trip and subsequent ones, they all knew of it. The driving school all followed the channel and loved it. I'd done stuff with the IAM. I'd done stuff for the driving school. I just passed my my bike course to ride the bikes in Diplomatic and been recommended for their high level stuff as well. Everyone was happy. I did a review of the new S1000RR in about 2019, I think it was, when that came out, and I enjoyed it. I loved it. I didn't take the piss, but I had some fun, and I usually blur out my speed. Certainly, if I'm above the nationals, then I'll blur it out.
Just when you're making progress, you mean?
Yeah, and it's genuinely, it's not always just because I was speeding. Sometimes I wasn't going that quick, but I didn't want people to go, okay, you're doing that bend at 65, 70. Let me go and try that. You know, you know what people are like. I just didn't want any of that. So a lot of the time I'd blur my speed out. Another copper, put a complaint in. We have in the police, in the Met, you have a thing called Right Line, which is a confidential hotline. It's used to grass up coppers who are, you know, dealing drugs, stealing money, the bad stuff, real bad stuff. But it can be used for anything. So this person right-lined me and said, this guy's on YouTube, he's a serving copper, he's speeding, and he represents a bad image of the police, in my opinion. That was picked up by my department's Diplomatic Protection. It was picked up by their internal affairs. And the inspector for that, who I'd never met the woman in my life, she decided she'd agreed. So she sent it to the higher level internal affairs, who looked at it and went, that's ridiculous. That's nothing. Sent it back, and she sent it back 4 times. And eventually it came back onto her desk, and she decided that, they were going to run with this. They were going to basically throw the book at me. And all they could do is give me a formal letter to say, you've been a bad boy. You need to keep your nose clean for like 3 years, and then you'll be fine. However, she told me it would be 2 years before they got round to investigating it. So that would be 2 years me being unrestricted, not earning any overtime, basic wage. And I was not allowed to carry on any YouTube at all, or social media, whether I stayed as Teapot One or rebranded for something else. I was not allowed to have a social media presence. And I queried that because I thought, you can't do that. But turns out they can. And in my eye, it gave me 2 choices, really. I stayed in the old bill and stopped everything that I'd spent 10 years building up. I get way more from Teapot One than I did from being a copper. You know, like Teapot One allows me to meet loads of different people. I get to promote biking and travel. I get to do loads of stuff just in the adventure travel circuit, not even relating to bikes. You know, I get to chat with all sorts of people and promote travel and promote just the fact that people are great. You know, the world is a nice place out there. Don't believe any of all this shite we're bombarded with in the media. It's just utter bollocks. You know, of course there are wrongings out there, but most people are brilliant, and you realise that when you travel. And I just thought, you know what, I still had at least another 12 years in the job in the police, and I thought, I can't see me doing 12 years in a sinking ship. I'll see if I can go. And it was my wife, actually. My wife said to me, she was like, go for it. Just go. See if you can make it. We've got her wage coming in. So she said, like, we've at least got my wage coming in. If you have to get another job, you have to get another job. But just go and see what you can do. Yeah. And then COVID hit. Literally the month I resigned, COVID hit. I've kept my head above water. So
yeah, I can see why you would do that with 12 years to go. If you'd been like 2 years away, that would have been really annoying, wouldn't it? But 12 years is a long time.
Again, like we said before, I'm quite belligerent like that, and the fact that somebody seemed to have that power over me, I just hated, and I kind of lost a lot of faith in the job, in a lot of things leading up to that, and then that as well. And I just thought, you're just a number. You know, you put your life on the line for an organisation that just doesn't give a shit about you. So I thought, I'm done.
The irony is, it sounds like you're actually doing quite a lot of good for motorcycling, and you still do, because you posted a video relatively recently about when you went out on the it's not called the Bike Safe, is it?
Bike Safe.
Yeah, Bike Safe. Yeah, and promoted that in a very, very positive way, and it is a good course. I've done it. And the Biker Down, and I've gone on to do the IAM training as well. So it's a very positive thing.
I'm not someone that thinks you should religiously stick to, like, the IAM and Rosbad. That's not my cup of tea at all. But the fundamentals that they teach will keep you alive. And for me, and same with the bike course, the police bike course, I take what I like from that and utilise that within my day-to-day riding. I'm not a hooligan anyway. We like to have fun on our bikes, don't we? And if you can do that in as safe a manner as possible, then lovely job. And road positioning, vision, that helps that.
We've ridden with somebody who might be in the police force, who shall remain nameless. And we've noticed, haven't we, Clive, I'd say very early on, that he's very strict on 30s and 40s, isn't he? As soon as we hit a 30, we're dead on 30 and we stick to that throughout. Yeah. And then, but out of the 30s and 40s and out of the street light zones, we do tend to make progress.
Yeah. That's drilled into you in cars and on bikes, you know, 20s, 30s, 40s, you stick to that. And then, 50s and above, you make progress. We're safe to do so,
Yeah, we're safe to do so, exactly,
We talked earlier about tribes and niches, Bruce. What's your tribe? What gang are you in, and what's in the garage?
Right. I only have one working bike at the moment, and that, dare I say it, is the GS. I have a GS 1250 sat in there. I've still got the Gixxer Thou, but she's not roadworthy. I've not ridden her since 2015, so she needs some work to get her back on the road. And I've got a clapped out Chinese import 125, which I did the first season of Motorbike TV last year with, Graham and Tom from Adventure Bike TV.
Yeah.
They started Motorbike TV last year, so I did that with them. And one of the episodes was Motorbike Olympics, where we were given like a 500 quid budget, and you had to go out and get a roadworthy bike and get it to the KTM centre in Wales. I found this little clapped out Chinese 125, Peggy I called her. You know, it's like one of these cheap Lex Moto type import bikes, one just generic thing that's been given a badge. So I got it to Wales, and my bike was the only one out the three to get there, start, complete the course, and then as I was riding down the dirt track back to the bothy for the night, I sort of gave it some big guns, being all cocky, and I snapped the chain. It's sat in my garage, and I want to do some sort of, I'm going to make some sort of little custom bike out of it.
What's the general quality of it like?
Oh, dog shit.
Terrible,
Cheese.
is it?
Cheese. Yeah. It's utter cheese.
So you're not the only one with the GS, though. I think you need to tell the listeners, Noel, what ridiculous thing you've done recently.
No, I've hinted at it that after we talked to, we're going to have to mention Olimoto again, and we had the big bike chat, I did start to think about getting a big bike. And there were just a few things he said that really kind of hit with me. And one of them was just the excitement he sort of felt he got from a bigger bike. And I've been getting on smaller and smaller bikes, and I just thought, you know what, I am actually missing. And I've never had a really huge, powerful bike. I've sort of peaked at 750 with an NC 750, but that's quite a mild ride.
Scooter.
And we have a friend who has a 1200, and he's just raved about it, and he's stuck with that one bike since he bought it new. So I've always been really curious about a boxer engine. So I bought an old 1150 GS, a 2002.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just sort of getting my head around. I haven't really ridden it yet. It's kind of a thing to tinker about with over the winter, and then I'll probably use next year.
Gotcha.
And see if I like it or don't like it.
Generally what he does, Bruce, is he buys one bike, then sees one he likes the look of better. So he has two of the same bike, and then after about 6 months, he sells them both.
No, I'd buy a cheap one, and then if I really like it, I think, I'd like a really nice version of this, and then I buy a nicer one.
And he goes, it's too nice to ride.
Yeah, it's too nice. And then I think it's too nice to ride and sell it.
Gotcha. I've got a mate like that. My mate Mooley's like that. He buys a bike. He buys a bike because he does all the research on it, and he goes, "This is the bike for me. It's got the best suspension, all this, all that, blah blah." He gets it, rides it once or twice, and goes, "It needs work on this. It needs work on that." So he spends all the money upgrading suspension, doing this and that on it. Rides it for about 8 or 9 months, and then goes, something else shiny now. So he's just like every 8 months or so, he's got another bike coming, and another bike, and another bike.
Yeah.
But you've kept your jigsaw, so obviously you form some level of attachment to your inanimate objects, the same as me.
I'll never get rid of that bike, ever.
When did it last run?
2015.
Wow.
I wrote a book about the trip, and I did the book launch at the first Overland event in 2015, I think it was, and I rode the bike there for that and back, and that's the last time I rode her.
And have you properly sort of decommissioned it and drained it, and
Nope.
or just stopped running it?
She sat there with all the fluids in her. She sat with all the fuel in her. Just sat in my garage. And,
you're not curious just to fire it up now and again?
I am, but I don't want to knacker her. You know, the fluids have just been sat in there for so long. I'd have to drain the fluids and at least change the oil, and I can't be arsed without any of that at the moment, to be honest. I'm too busy. I do want to thoroughly get her going again. But the problem is, to get her on the road, she'd need to pass the MOT, and like the rear subframe, I went through 4 rear subframes on my trip. So the rear subframe that's on it now is a solid aluminium one that a stunt company built me and sent out to me when I crashed in Japan. So they sent it to me out there, and that is still on the bike, but it's held on with one bolt now. So and like the whole tail section is held on with a bungee cargo net. The front, all the fairings are basically plastic welded and stitched back together with cable ties. Like, I'm not sure if I could get it through an MOT in that state, but I want to keep the patina of the bike. You know, I don't even want to wash her. I want. She's not washed from the last time. I think America is still on that bike. So it's like,
is it on display in the garage, or is it just buried under lots of boxes? And
it's just under loads of stuff. Yeah. It's sacrilege. It really is.
It really is.
For people that don't know, Bruce did a trip around the world, and for his choice of bike, he chose a sports bike, a 1000cc GSX Suzuki. That's right, isn't it?
GSXR 1000, yeah.
GSXR 1000.
The bike. The original beast.
Okay. We'll come back to that. So, if you were to do the trip again, if you were offered a free trip next week, you're leaving next week, which bike would you take?
I'd take absolutely anything. I don't subscribe to this bike is this and this bike is that. I think to be blunt, I think all of that is bollocks. I think any bike will go anywhere. It will do anything. It's the rider that limits the bike, in my opinion. I've taken that bike. That Jigsaw has been through mud. It's been through water. I've dragged it over like rock falls, 8-10 foot high rock falls, and ridden it down the other side. Any bike will do it. I mean, it's uncomfortable. It's bloody hard work. Yes, I fell off it. I dropped it. But it's two wheels and an engine, so it'll go.
So there was no moments of regret during the trip where you just thought, why didn't I bring
loads?
Why didn't I bring a cheap Chinese 125?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's easy, but the sense of achievement, like for me, one of the hardest stretches was going through Laos, because again, me being me, decided that although all the maps and the sat navs were telling me you can't go that way, I was looking at my map and thinking that looks a lovely twisty road. I'll have loads of fun on that. Well, they hadn't built the road yet, so it was just all muck and mud.
It was just an idea. It was just a concept.
Yeah. But the sense of achievement after I sort of dragged and pulled and pushed that bike through that section, that stayed with me to this day. In my head, it's like that was the dream. That section right there was worth everything just to go and do that. What would I take? I'd be happy to take anything. Of course, the GS would be easy, to an extent, and it's much more comfortable. It'll eat the miles. Most of the off-road, for my ability, it will handle anything that's on there, and I feel comfortable doing off-roady type stuff on the GS. I think if you're going to be going into heavy, deep sand and thick mud, and okay, yeah, it's going to be a handful compared to like my little 125 or something, but it'll do it. If you know what you're doing, it'll do it. I just don't know what I'm doing, so it's me. I'm limiting the bike.
You've made a series of videos which are available on your YouTube channel of your trip around the world. I really like your style of just the way you are in the video, because it's just you, isn't it? There's no pretense or anything there. You're very honest and you're very open, and the horrible time you had in Africa. And
I don't see the point in BSing people, because you can't keep up a pretense all the time. So eventually that mask's going to slip, and people aren't daft. People can see through falseness, I think. So I may as well just be me, and those that like me will hang around and become part of the community, and those that don't, leave a shitty comment and bugger off. So fine, okay.
We've said this to a few people, like I'm always constantly surprised we don't get more abuse online. we actually get very little, but yeah, it's kind of like, if somebody likes what you do, why would they be mean? And like you say, if they don't, they can fuck off.
I've always say to people though, I'm always interested in people's feedback. I want to hear people's opinions on things, and okay, I might not agree with it, but I like, you've probably gathered this, I like to have a chat, I like to have a discussion, conversations with people, and I like to see other people's point of view. And sometimes they'll raise a topic about, a bike or some place I've been or something I say in a vid. They'll raise a point of view that I haven't considered. And sometimes, you can find yourself going, well, actually I didn't think of that. That does kind of make sense. All right, okay. Sometimes you've got to concede you're wrong, haven't you? I think in life, I don't think there's anything wrong with going, all right, I fucked up. I was wrong with that. Sorry.
Tell us a little bit more about your channel, because you do lots of different things on your YouTube channel now, don't you?
Yeah, I feel a bit lost at the moment, to be honest. I'm gonna lie down on the couch here. I feel a bit lost on YouTube, because I don't really know what I want the channel to be, or where I want it to go. Because I never ever wanted it to be a bike review channel, but during lockdown, that's the only way. I'm traditionally about travel. That's my thing, is about travel. I always wanted Teapot One to be all about getting out there, meeting other bikers, just meeting people from wherever I am, whether that's me in the UK or whether that's me traveling another country somewhere, like the world trip. I just wanted it along the same lines. This is what's available out here, and look, people are decent, people are nice. During lockdown, obviously, I had to do a lot of bike reviews, and bike reviews get views, and with views come subscribers. So to grow the channel, it's almost like a necessary evil, but I don't feel qualified to do bike reviews, because I'm I'm just a bloke that rides bikes. I'm not a journalist. I'm not a mechanic. I don't know the ins and outs of a bike. I literally get on it and go, this feels good. This doesn't feel good. This feels really quite fast. It doesn't feel quite fast. You know, this is wheezy. This has got a nice roar. It's the most basic reviews you can think of.
Yeah. When you sort of go to a dealership and you pick a bike up and you take it out for the day and you do a bit of filming, if you don't like it, how does the dealership react to your review once it goes out? Do you ever get any feedback from them about it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not really used by any PR teams anymore, to be honest. But as I said to you, I will not bullshit about a bike review for sure, because bikes are like 18, 20 plus grand these days. Yeah. And if I say something's great when it's not great, and then and there are people out there who will base buying a bike, they'll base it on what they watch on YouTube. Some people don't even throw a leg over these things, and they just go and spend money on a bike. If they then do that, and that bike is not what I've said in my video, then that's not right, is it? You know, that's.
But have any dealers ever come back to you afterwards after some negative stuff?
Yeah, I've had one or two dealerships that have been like, you know, after you've done a vid, we've had some people cancel sales. I've had manufacturers, the PR teams that work with manufacturers. I'm not really included in a lot of that sort of stuff out there. But to be fair, I also did say to them, I'm not interested in any of the bike launches and all that sort of stuff. I don't want to do all that. It's just it's the same old faces rocking up, and I'm just not interested in any of that stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I have had that. But I do make it plain to any companies that approach me to do any sort of work with them. I'm like, I will give as balanced a viewpoint as I can. Yeah. I'm not going to say it's shit. But if I don't think something's good, I'll say why I don't think it's good. Right, yeah. And if I think something's good, I'll say why I think it's good. But again, it's my opinion, isn't it? It's different for everybody. Yeah.
Back to your YouTube quandary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you enjoy? What sort of stuff do you enjoy producing for it?
Travel. Right. I really enjoy the travel, the tour type stuff. Like, even if it's just in the UK. I started doing some stuff with Simon Weir last year where we're trying to commit a lot of his day routes to video. So, you know, you can buy Bikers Britain and Bikers Europe and all these different guidebooks that he has. Well, the idea is to try and take each one of them now and just create like a 15-minute vid from it, so that on his website he can go, this is what you're going to get with this route, and he can watch the vid. So it's a good thing for me, it's a good thing for him. So everything from UK stuff right through to I'm trying to push further afield for next year. I want to get to India. I want to get back to the States. So it's just, again, it's trying to find the time and the money to facilitate all of this sort of stuff. But that's what I want to do is just travel, ride, meet the other people meet bikers that are out there.
Well, we've got a great contact for you in India. Rohit, he's called the toll-free traveller.
Oh, yeah?
In massive number of... He's got 140,000 followers or something like that.
Wow.
This is who we were talking about, who travelled around Scotland recently.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Lovely fella. He'd
fantastic.
Welcome you with open arms, I'm sure. And do you know about the GRIT, the Great India Trail?
No. I don't know.
Well, you know about the TET, obviously. Everybody knows about the TET. So basically, the GRIT is an Indian version of the TET. They were in touch with John Ross and the other people that run the TET to actually find out about, and they kind of helped each other to create it. I don't think it's a circular route. I think it's a number of routes in each different state. But again, it's a free-to-download GPX. You can fly into Chennai, fly into Hyderabad, go and hire a bike for 15 quid a day or something like that, and go and ride these amazing routes. So it's again, like the TET, it's opened up travel massively in India.
When I get over there, I'll have to do some of that for sure. I'll have to do a little bit of the proper off-road stuff.
Rohit said that most of the roads are like riding off-road anyway, so you won't have any choice. Once you get out of the cities, you know, it's all kind of turns fairly mushy.
You're supremely qualified to go down this route, Bruce, aren't you? I think this is definitely the way to go for you.
Do you mean for the
YouTube
travel
channel?
Type of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, I mean, I suppose I've got a background in it. I've done some of the stuff. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think anyone can do it. You know, anyone can do that. It's just about chucking your leg over the bike and going for it, isn't it?
Of the trips you've done, what's been your favourite? Where have been your favourite places?
I keep coming back. There's a few. I loved Japan Like the riding in Japan is sensational. The people are just amazing. The nicest, friendliest people over there. And I love the culture and the history over there. Here in the UK, we've got buildings that are like 1,000 years old. To us, that's historical, isn't it? And it is. It's amazing. You go over there and they've got temples that are 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years old. And they're still there. You know, they're still like working temples that people are visiting. They look amazing. I love the whole sort of the history and everything that goes with it over there. I just like their mentality. I love Norway. Again, biking community was as strong, if not stronger, than I've seen in so many other places. And there's no bullshit in Norway. You know, they don't care if you're on a moped or if you're on a Harley. They don't care if you're on a sports bike. You're a biker. It doesn't matter. And I really like that there. And the scenery is just outstanding. For me, I think probably, if I could only go one, I get asked this all the time, if I could only go one place and ride that for the rest of my life, it would have to be mainland Spain. I love Spain.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you've got the beautiful mountain roads. You've got the coast when you want that. There's the inland, the hot inland, fast roads. The old Bill don't care. The people are really nice. The food's cheap. The beer's cheap. Happy days.
The roads are unbelievable, aren't they, in Spain?
Oh, sensational.
Unbelievable, yeah.
We just did a trip trail riding through the Pyrenees as well, mainly following the Tet. And have you come across our friend's films, Greg Villalobos?
Oh, Villalobos, yeah, I've seen that.
That's our gang, basically. So we do like at least one trip a year, and he films it, and we make monkeys of ourselves doing ridiculous things.
That trip we did, it was predominantly an off-road trip, and there was sort of this last sort of day-long trek back to the ferry again, and I kept trying to say, look, don't write off that last day of getting back to the ferry. That will be one of the best days getting onto the roads of Spain. What, you're shaking your head, Clive. Was it not one of the best days?
No, it pissed down all day.
And it was spoiled by a KTM
Greg's
breaking
clutch
down.
had gone, and it rained. And it was freezing cold as well. Bizarrely, it'd been like really hot for the rest of the week, and then the last day we basically got on the motorway and had to black to the ferry. It was like,
oh no,
we were up at 6 a.m. because we thought, well, we'll give ourselves an extra couple of hours just in case Greg's bike breaks down.
I hadn't factored in the KTM factor. Yeah, I should always do that.
You got to always factor in the KTM factor.
If you're back in Spain, head to the Picos and up into that northwest. That northwest part of Spain is just sensational, and it's often just forgotten about by people.
Yeah. I've ridden a little bit of it, and even just the motorway going across the top of the coast.
Yeah.
It's not a motorway, is it? It's just like a fairground ride.
I know, yeah.
You've built, from what I can see and understand, quite a nice community of people that listen and watch your things. You've got your clan, I think you call it.
The community is incredible, and then part of me leaving the old Bill, I was a bit reticent to do it, to be honest, and I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I started a Patreon. Patreon were there. So I started up Patreon thinking, I don't know why anyone would want to join this, because they can get everything for free anyway. So I just didn't see the logic in it. Some friends of mine who had Patreon were like, just do it. And even if it covers your fuel, happy days. So I did it. The support I get on there is incredible. It's over half my monthly income. I literally couldn't do it without their support. We now, there's a whole load of them. There's like 40 of them coming over to the Isle of Man with me in April. We're going over there, and because I do like meets, I do meetups, which I used to do with the general sort of public before, but I kind of thought, now I have the clan and people are making that extra commitment to me financially, and they're really sort of helping me out massively. I kind of thought, well, I want to give more back to them, so I really only do the meetups and stuff with the clan now. So we go to a different part of the UK a few times a year. The way it's worked out now is somebody takes charge of that meet. So it's generally people from that area. They go, right, we'll take care of the route. We'll scope out the hotels and the pubs and restaurants and stuff. And that's it. We just pick a date and we go, right, we're going to go on this date. Who's up for it? Everyone books their hotels. We all meet and go for a big ride, spend the weekend together. What I really like about all this, the whole sort of online biking world now, is that it's predominantly blokes, but there are sometimes lasses, but you get these people who all they've ever done, they might have been riding for 40 years, but all they've ever done is jump on their bike, ride to their local calf, sit, sometimes not even mixing with people, other times it's just the same people, they have a cup of tea, cup of coffee, and then they ride back, and they do that 3 months out of the year on a weekend, on a Sunday or something like that, and they're perfectly happy and they love it. All of a sudden, for whatever reason, they decide, I'm going to have some of this. So they go somewhere new. They meet up with all these people they've never met before. And all of a sudden, you see people's whole worlds just get opened up.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like, all these lads, generally, they're all exchanging numbers and creating WhatsApp groups. And we're going to Wales. Do you fancy coming to Wales? And then, these people go to Wales that have never traveled before. All of a sudden, they're like, this is amazing. And then they're crossing to Europe the next time with the same group. So I love that.
I love that.
You get your own little communities that seem to grow in amongst it. And yeah, it's awesome.
Well, we've had a similar thing happen, haven't we, with all the Adams?
Yeah, all the Adams and the Alexes. But this sounds amazing. We need to upscale a little bit.
Well, the thing is, we could if you weren't so antisocial. If you didn't hate people, we probably could do more of it.
I want to say we, I mean you.
If you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I didn't used to be social like this. I definitely used to be the one sitting at the back and I socialized with my own mates, and that was that. And
yeah. Well, you found the people and they found you. I think this would be the cure for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
The other one I want to talk about is electric bikes. You've ridden a few, certainly some of the Energicas fairly recently, haven't you?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I watched your 4-point tour of the UK, the 48. Oh, man, that looks so unpleasant. So you basically riding a bike with a range of about 60 miles. And you had to go from Land's End, John O'Groats, somewhere in Norfolk over to somewhere in Cardiff or whatever. And
yeah, it's one of the Iron Butt accredited rides. I think this one's the 4 corners or something like that. You basically go from wherever your start point is, and you have to incorporate Land's End, St David's, John O'Groats, and Lowestoft. You've got to encompass all them and then get back to your start point. It's normally between about 2,100 and 2,500 miles. And to qualify for the Iron Butt, you've got to do that within 48 hours, which, believe it or not, if you're used to doing miles on a petrol bike, certainly on something like a GS or something like that, it's perfectly achievable. It's not too bad at all. I tried it on a 125 about a year ago, and I think it took me 3 and a bit days. And then I've always wanted to do it on the electric. In fact, I want to take an electric around the world, but Mark Travels, the German guy, is currently doing that as we speak. So I thought, right, I knew the new Xperia was coming out, which was claiming all sorts of range, and it was going to be a touring bike. And I just thought that is the perfect bike to do it on. I put this forward to English Electric Motor Company, and given their due, they were up for it. It's not the type of trip that an electric bike is meant to do. Go as fast as you possibly can, as long as you possibly can, is the worst thing you can do on an electric bike. But no one had ever done it before, and they were up for it. So I didn't do it on the Xperia, sadly. Energica decided they weren't going to prioritise this for the Xperia. So I got one of the old Rebellis, which has about 3/4 of the range of the Xperia, if not half the range of the Xperia.
How many miles are you talking then for that?
For the Rebelli, normal road riding, so the sort of stuff that you do on a Sunday blat, you'll get about 100 miles.
Okay.
Excuse me, about 100 miles.
Yeah.
You might get a little bit more depending on how easy you are with the throttle. If you do any sort of sustained 55, 60 mile an hour or more riding, so dual carriageways, motorways, that just rinses the battery totally. But if you're on the backcountry roads, you can easily get 100 miles. If you do town stuff, you're looking 200 odd miles. So,
and what's the charge time after that?
If you do fast DC charging, it's about 20 minutes. But again, it depends on the charge rate. So it can be anywhere from 20 minutes to 40 minutes, depending on how quick the chargers are that you use. But yeah, it'll do it in 20 minutes, like 20 to 80% it'll do in 20 minutes.
Oh, that's way quicker than I thought you were going to say.
This is the thing, right? And part of the reason I wanted to do this was because there's so many skeptics out there, and every time I do an electric vid, you're just bombarded in the comments by people who've got no knowledge whatsoever. They've never even ridden a bike, but they know everything about it. They're like, the infrastructure's not there, it'll never make it, blah, 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 blah. Well, I just wanted to try. As I said, I'm a bit belligerent, I'm a bit obtuse. I was like, right, I want to see for myself.
You're perfect for this.
Well, yeah. And I've kind of got a name for doing those endurance rides. So I just thought, right, let's let's do it. Yeah, what it showed me was that the infrastructure is there. There's chargers everywhere, but they're not always working. There's not enough of them, and there's very rarely anything around the chargers. They're set up for cars. So you go in your car, you sit there in the rain, you listen to your radio in your nice warm car, and that's you. But when you turn up as a biker, you're stood in the rain, or like for me, when I charged was when I slept. So I'm lying in the ground in the rain, getting 20 minutes, half hour sleep. There's no toilets, there's nothing. That certainly needs to be worked on for sure. But the bike will do it. The bike did it.
And the new Xperia, is Xperia, it's got twice the miles or something like that, twice the range?
Motorways, dual carriageways will always rinse an electric bike, an electric car. The cars are exactly the same. Motorways and dual carriageways, you see a massive drop in your range there. But normal riding, the Xperia, you'll easily get, I think, about 140 miles out of the Xperia, and it's about a 25-minute recharge time, something like that. And it's a comfortable bike as well.
That would have made that trip a bit pleasanter, wouldn't it? What did you do, something like 37 charges or something over 4 days?
39 consecutive fast DC chargers, which has never ever been done in the world ever. Normally your electric bikes are supposed to have, I think it's every 5th or every 6th charge is supposed to be a full AC charge. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but apparently the cells within the battery with fast DC charging, they don't get settled properly. They're not equalized out. So if you think like with your computer, if you have a Windows computer, every now and then you have to defragment it, don't you? Because it gets slower and slower and slower as you use it. Because the computer uses information and it doesn't file it back in exactly the same place. It just chucks it in places. So over time, it slows down because it's trying to figure out where everything is. Well, I think your battery is a little bit similar like that. When it's fast DC recharged, it's not equaling the cells particularly well, so you don't get the full charge and you're not getting maximum efficiency out of that battery either, which is why you're supposed to settle it with the AC. So they genuinely didn't know what would happen if you were to just constantly fast DC recharge, and as it went, I think I saw a slight drop in performance, but nothing drastic. So it was a bit of on the job working and learning for them as well.
Another great series of videos worth watching on the YouTube channel.
Cheers.
And you're an experienced motorcyclist, so how much did not having an internal combustion engine between your legs distract from the motorcycling experience? I mean, I presume at speed, it's just wind noise anyway, isn't it?
Yeah. The speed is phenomenal. The novelty doesn't or hasn't worn off with me. There's no bike will compare. No bike will beat those electric bikes off the line. It's crazy. It's insane. Yeah, okay. I do miss the engine noise. You miss, pulling the clutch in and revving, blipping the throttle. I miss that. Sometimes I miss the gears, the actual physicality of riding an internal combustion bike. But with electric, there's just there's another side to it. It's much more surreal. It's much more serene. When you stop at a junction, you can stop and you can listen and hear the other traffic coming, or you hear the birds. Like if you're going down backcountry twisty lanes, I've got loads of them around here in Kent. On an electric bike, you're always sneaking up on wildlife, because even though this thing screams, it's not a noise they're familiar with. So you come around the corner and there's deer sat in the road, or there's blooming badgers still there, So there's just a lot. There's other things you get with electric that you don't get with petrol. But obviously there's things with petrol you don't get with electric.
It's the future. We've all got to get our heads around it, haven't we, at some point?
That's the mindset I sort of take is, well, this is coming. Whether it's the answer that we are looking for or not, I don't know.
Well, it's got to be a positive for trail riding because of the noise issues. If we can remove the noise issues, that's one less thing for the anti-trail riders to complain about. So in a way, I'm kind of looking forward to it, although I'm always going to keep some internal combustions in my barn.
Well, I went out on an assisted bicycle ride this week with people that I often go trail riding with.
Well, you took your carers with you mean?
And it was people that I often trail ride with. As I'm doing it, I'm thinking, I could possibly find myself enjoying this more than actual motorized trail riding.
Oh, shut up, you fool.
Yeah. It's something. Yeah.
Bruce, can we do a podcast together and get rid of Noel?
And the novelty of electric bicycles still, a year and a half in, still hasn't worn off. It still just seems really exciting as I'm doing it.
Yeah, I think you've got to be open to it because it's coming, isn't it? And whether you like it or not, there's way too much money involved in all of this now. So electric's coming our way. I don't think this is the final variation of it. I think there's going to be lots of variations in the battery fuel cell technology that goes with it. But as Alec pointed out to me from English Electric, the electric motor, why would you not have the electric motor over the internal combustion? The internal combustion is like 30% efficient, whereas the electric motor is something like 95% efficient. It just makes sense to go electric. But batteries are where we fall down at the moment.
We'll definitely look back at combustion engines like we look back at steam.
Yeah.
Now it just seems crazy. What? Yeah, that whole.
We probably won't. No,
We're not.
No. We're a bit older than Bruce.
And I think the internal, the cars, the petrol cars will disappear before the petrol bikes. I think petrol bikes will be around.
Yeah, I think petrol bikes are going to be around for quite a bit longer. There's electric at the moment. The way technology is, electrics just doesn't suit bikes yet. For what we know as motorbikes, big bikes. For little commuters, they're brilliant. Interchangeable batteries. But for bikes that we know, for the range that we want, you're talking 100 kilograms at least for a battery. So.
But I'm just speaking nostalgically. There'll still be people searching out petrol to take that 1970 something
100%.
bike out. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So listen, changing the subject somewhat. I've got a number. I haven't got 10. I think I've got 9 either or questions for you, Bruce.
Great.
Okay.
Because this is normally you can only do this with people you know, but I've been watching your videos. So the idea is you're supposed to say one or the other, but you don't have to. It's just a bit of fun.
Okay.
You can say what you want. So, MotoGP or the Dakar?
Have to be GP for me.
I thought you might say that. This one you're going to struggle with. GSXR or GS?
What's it for? It's
Not
the only thing you can have.
Only one or the other. One or the other.
It would have to be. I think it would have to be the Gixxer. It would have to be my Gixxer because they're not making them anymore. So yeah,
you might have to change the oil then. YouTube or Apple Podcasts?
Oh Jesus, that's a tough one. Spotify's my biggest actually, but I really enjoy the podcasts, but I couldn't make a living out of it.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. I think for the time being, it would have to be YouTube.
Fair enough. Okay. Ollie Moto or any other fucking YouTuber you know? Which one?
Any other. Nah, Ollie's a top bloke. Took me. I didn't know about Ollie till about a month ago. He sort of maybe 2 months ago, he came on my radar. Somebody said to me, "You need to get this guy on the podcast."
Yeah, he's great. He's great.
Top lad.
He really is.
Yeah.
He is. We've been knocking around for a little while now, and he's a lot of fun. What you see is what you get.
Absolutely, I like that.
Yeah. He's a good lad. We just did a first aid podcast with him.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly, it's broken. We're going to break it down into 2 episodes. Possibly my favourite podcast so far that we've done. It's really good, really interesting, because boy does he know. He's a paramedic, he knows his stuff incredibly well, but it's still quite funny, isn't it?
It was fantastic. Yeah.
You need that though. You need that for topics like that. You'd need somebody that can educate whilst also entertaining you, don't you?
It was a fascinating 2.5 hours that we spent chatting to him. So yeah,
I think it should be part of your bike test. To be honest, I think every biker should have like just rudimentary, basic first aid. Because I was in a TT recently and went over the mountain and literally came up behind a guy that had just fallen off his bike. He's in the mountain section of the TT, flat out across the road, unconscious, and his missus is there, like just distraught. Load of people were round about, no idea what to do. That would have caused utter carnage. That with people coming just after the veranda, coming bombing round the corner.
So who are your favourite podcasters that aren't Ollie Moto?
Joe Rogan was the first one I listened to, and I religiously listened to Rogan. I like the variety of guests, and I like the way he'll argue a point, but he'll also listen to what other people are saying and occasionally change his own mind on the podcast. And he's got someone there fact checking stuff because he's learned, I think, from 10 years of doing it, he's learned you kind of need to fact check a lot of things before you put them out to millions of people. I listen to quite a lot of American ones. I listen to Two Bears, One Cave, Tom Segura and Burt Kreischer. Do you listen to them?
No, never heard of them.
I listen to them. They're funny. Who else do I listen to? There's an editing one. There's two editors. One's a film editor and the other one's a YouTube editor, and they have a podcast. I like listening to that just to hear different perspectives on what they're doing.
What have you learned from doing it? Has it kind of changed your approach to how you listen to people and talk to people?
Podcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I'd like to think I'm a better conversationalist now. It's still hard when you do them online like this because there's always that little delay. So you always end up talking over or, that sort of stuff. But I think I'm much more adept at just chatting to anybody now, having, been doing it for the last year, 2 years, or whatever it is. I like to hear other people's point of view. So I'm interested in listening to what people have got to say. My podcast isn't always to do with bikes. As long as someone's got a story, I just have anyone on. I don't care what the background is. If you've got a story to tell, then, I want to hear it and I want to chat about it. Yeah, I think it's helped me for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Has it changed you, Noel, doing this?
Changed me? Well, it's changed me, but it's definitely not been as I expected. It is quite I'm still learning how to listen.
What?
It's hard to know how much to listen and how much to talk, isn't it? It's a real fine balance sometimes, and often I feel like I'm not. This is enough of a conversation, but then when I hear it back, like tonight, Bruce, it's just great listening to you talk, and sometimes you think, well, something I want to ask, but actually I don't want to interrupt Bruce because this is great stuff. So it's hard to sort of strike that balance, isn't it, between a conversation and actually listening to somebody uninterrupted.
Yeah, I don't think I've changed at all. I'm still rude and obnoxious.
I think one of the most powerful tools you can have in a conversation is the ability to stay silent. And that was sort of taught to me by the first podcast I was ever on, which is done by a Scottish lady called Lisa Kennedy. And she's got a podcast called The Braw and the Brave. And it's quite similar to mine, but much more down the sort of arts world line of things. And she said that to me. She said, often if you're in a conversation with somebody and you feel like they've finished and you need to ask a question, she says, just hold off for another second or two. And you'll often find people will carry on talking. And a lot of the times they open up more than they possibly previously were.
Good tip.
And I was like, oh, wow, okay. And I've noticed I've tried to do that in some podcasts since. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
The other thing I always moan at Noel at is that, active listening that you would normally do in a conversation face-to-face when you go, yeah, exactly, or yes. It's like, you can't do that on a podcast because if you're as obsessive about editing as I am, I'm going to take all of those out.
You take them out, and I do listen to a few podcasts where it doesn't get taken out, and I don't think it distracts from it. I think it's nice to hear that and be reminded that there's somebody else listening to that conversation.
It must take you forever.
Yeah. It's like 5 hours for an hour.
You've got to stop doing that. Yeah, do less.
I used to do that. No, not anymore. I used to do that when I first started doing it. I would go and I would take out I'd look for the explosives, when people were talking, I'd try and take that out, and all I do now is I equalize the audio so that roughly everyone is talking at about -6 dB. And then if there's any sort of background noise, like if there's a fan going or something, I'll try and remove that. Do you use Audition?
No, I use Hindenburg Pro.
Okay, right.
Which is for radio.
So that must have the ability to remove certain frequencies.
Yeah,
and things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I use Audition for that, and that's about it really. Literally, I just try and keep it as organic, native as possible now.
What's the thing I've listened to yours and it seems fine to me, but I can't.
Oh, come on.
I have to work on it. We've got 4 more to go yet.
Oh, yeah, go.
All right, yeah.
5 more to go. I think we know the answer to this one. Internal combustion or electric?
I would love it to always be internal combustion.
Yeah.
You dinosaur.
Austin Vince or Ewan and Charlie?
Ewan and Charlie. I know Austin. He's a lovely fella, and I think what he did was incredible. But it was Ewan and Charlie who put me on this path, and I met Austin after I knew about global travel through Ewan and Charlie.
We did a podcast with Austin. We know him a little bit now as well. His podcast he did with us is great. He's so brilliant, such a brilliant speaker. He is amazing.
He's a great talker.
Yeah, and Ben King as well. You did Ben King as well, didn't you? We had Ben King. What
You
a
ask
guy.
him one question and then just sit back for an hour.
Yeah, sit back and relax. I think we've spent some time with him, been drinking with him at a couple of festivals now, and I think both times he's lost his voice. He's just absolutely brilliant.
He's a lovely fella.
Yeah,
Lovely fella.
Yeah. Leather or textiles?
Oh, I'm a leather man, although I wear rucka now. I spent my money on rucka. I sort of just got fat inside my rucka suit. But given a choice, I would definitely be wearing the leathers. I think I wear them on the GS even sometimes, but you look a bit of a throbber.
Tea or beer?
What was the first one?
Tea or beer?
I'm a coffee man, so beer. Beer.
Easy one then. I think this might be a difficult one for you. Valentino Rossi or Barry Sheen?
Oh, jeez. Well, I didn't grow up watching any Barry Sheen stuff on the telly because I wasn't really into the bikes to that extent. So it'd have to be Rossi because by the time I found the love of biking, Rossi was the GOAT already by that point, and everything was Rossi.
That's fair enough. That's a fair enough answer. It's the wrong answer, but it's fair enough. You're allowed to say what you want. I'd like to say there's no right and wrong, but in this instance,
but you're wrong. Yeah.
Fantastic. Right, now, is there anything that you would like to talk about that we haven't touched on?
Where do you see all this going? Where do you see? Do you guys go on YouTube, or you just audio podcast?
Pure audio.
Where do you want to? It's my turn to turn the tables on you then. Where do you want to your podcast to go then?
Noel wants to do it once a month.
Yeah, I didn't want it to come to this.
You enjoy it though, right?
I do love it, yeah.
I just want it to grow. The reason we started it was we saw our friend Greg, and he started making these motorbike films, and it just opened a lot of opportunities for him to go and do fun things and to meet great people. So he now works for Adventure Spec. He does some, great stuff with Adventure Spec, and he's opened a lot of opportunities for us as well. But doing this podcast, we get to talk to bloody Bruce from Teapot One, do you know what I mean? Yeah. We get to talk to Austin. We've spent time with Ben. It's opened up all these brilliant opportunities for us. It's now paying for itself. Potentially, I'd like to retire as soon as the fuck I can and take my pension and maybe earn some money doing this as well. Because like you, I absolutely love doing it as well. It's virtually impossible with podcasting. Such a small niche.
And I think we've sort of lost our imposter syndrome a little bit, haven't we? I think in the beginning we were kind of just going around immediate friends and thinking who we might have a sort of a shoe-in with. Now, I mean, this might sound a bit big-headed, but I feel like really we could approach anyone and feel...
Well, I still do approach a lot of people and they either don't reply or say no.
Yeah, well, that's fine, but do you know what I mean? I think we've got to a stage now where I'd be quite happy to speak to anyone, really.
Well, we do that, don't we? Because we're not all about famous people. Because what we do as well, we encourage listeners to, if they've got a story. We've done quite a few listener specials. Magnus, that was on this week, told us about his Iron Butt challenge, and he's just a great guy, and he had some great stories, and we do quite a bit of that.
Yeah, I've found that with this now. It's like, I have loads of people going, oh, could you get such and such on the podcast or such and such on the podcast? And whereas before, exactly like you just said, I'd look at them and go, Jesus, I couldn't possibly approach them. And, why would they come on? Now I just like, fuck it, why not? Send them a DM. And, as you said, Clive, if they reply, they reply. And if they don't, I'll pester them again. I'll keep going until you at least get a no.
I don't pester them again. They're dead to me if they don't respond in a positive way.
But I've done it where I've messaged them 3 or 4 times maybe over about a year, and last one is just like, okay, I'll take that this is a no, but I just want to make sure that you've read it. No problems at all. Love to chat to you, but if it's a no, please just let me know. And people will reply and go, I'm really sorry, I haven't seen any of these messages before.
Right, okay.
I just happened to be on when this one came in. So, let's do it.
So how many podcasts have you done? How many are you in now?
I think I'm at 106 now.
Wow.
105, 106, something like that.
Yeah. Do you know how many we're at now?
No.
I
12.
Think this will be, I think this is possibly even our 50th.
No.
Cool.
Yeah, because... So it's not going to go out for probably about 3 weeks, Bruce. But I'll let you know when it does go out.
Awesome, nice one.
So so we've got 48 released, 49, 50. Oh, you'll be 52 actually.
Yeah, just tag me and I'll share them on my sort of feeds.
I really appreciate you doing this.
Oh yeah, thank you so
likewise.
much.
It's been absolutely
Likewise,
brilliant.
appreciate
and-
you letting me on. It's great.
No, it's great, and it must be nice to talk rather than ask the questions for a change.
It is, yeah. Like I was saying to you, I don't often get asked on other folks' podcasts, and it's nice because it's, you know, you're gonna have listeners that have never heard of me, so it helps me out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Brilliant.
definitely.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
great.
Likewise, if you want to
Appreciate it.
come on mine, then yeah, come on mine. We'll do a role reversal.
Yeah, let's do that. That'd be
Yeah.
great. What,
I'd love to
have
do
you got
that.
anything to say?
I think
Told
so.
all our stories.
All you need for mine is beer and an evening free. That's it.
There we go. Sorted. Near a toilet. Awesome. It's been lovely to meet you, Bruce.
Yeah,
And
lovely.
you, lads. And
Thanks
you.
a lot.
Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Right.
Well, a massive thanks to Bruce again. Some great stuff in there. Don't forget, you can subscribe to both his YouTube channel, Teapot One, and Teapotone Bru Time, which is his podcast channel. Don't forget, if you've enjoyed this and you'd like to support our channel, you can go to Patreon or buy me a coffee or buy some of our merch. I've just ordered a stack of T-shirts, so they should be landing fairly soon. All right, catch you next time. Ta-ta a bit. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate your support. Don't forget you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And if you really appreciate what we do, you could consider supporting us on Patreon or buy us a coffee. Links are available on our website, which is tampodcast.com, tampodcast.com, where we also have a limited selection of branded stuff. But either way, please keep listening and spreading the word. See you next time.